What's going on, Rovers? Sam here, back at it again for another video. Wuthering Waves just did their profile reveal for the upcoming Resonator Zani. I wanted to take some time to go over a kit, so let's get into it. Now, we all know Zani is best girl, but I did not know that Zani is the most complicated girl. So let's go over this profile reveal. Let's talk about her kit. I'm going to try and extrapolate and explain it best I can. You'll have to forgive me. I'm still trying to figure it out myself. It's going to take testing, but I think I have a general understanding of how she works. So, what I can definitively tell you, she is a spectral character. Duh. And she's a gauntlet character. Duh. Actually, that's not a duh because she has a huge sword. So, why isn't she a Broadblade character? Answer me that, girl. Moving on. Now, she has normal attacks like every character. Her normal attacks, pretty stock standard, perform up to 4 consecutive attacks, deal spectro damage, has a little breakthrough, heavy attacks, midair, dodge counter. Cool. Everybody has this. Hers look cool. She's got horns, she's got a tail. Hog. Now, this is where we get into the meat and potatoes. Now, with her resonance skill, essentially there's two different states. You have the standard defense protocol, and then you have the crisis response protocol. The big difference is the crisis response is when you have max redundant energy, which essentially is just her form of concerto. So let's start out with the standard because it is a lot more simplistic and easy to understand. So essentially, you attack the target, you deal spectral damage, and then you enter this block stance, kind of like Leonidas from 300. Shout out Leonidas. Now, you're able to perform a normal attack within a certain time, kind of like a quick time event. Shout out Expedition 33. What a phenomenal game. And then you're able to recover 10 redundant energy, concerto, and then you stagger the target. Now, you're also able to, when you enter the block state, if you take a hit, you'll then do another attack, which is called Pinpoint Strike, deals damage. You reduce the enemy's strength. So, essentially, the standard, you can press normal attack and then you'll attack, and you can also block, just like you saw there, and then you'll do a kind of like a follow-up attack. So kind of cool. So within her standard skill, she kind of has two different attacks that she can pull off. Now, her crisis response protocol, essentially kind of like her elevated skill, works similarly, but also a little differently. So when she's not in her Inferno mode, which is just her burst, but her redundant energy is full, Concerto, she has the crisis response protocol. So if you hold the skill, you're still in that ready stance. She's immune to interruption. If you switch her out, it ends prematurely. And then if you release the skill, she'll then do a targeted action. She'll consume all Concerto. This targeted action deals spectral damage, which is also considered spectral frazzle damage. Or if you're attacked, she's still in that ready stance, reduces damage, but then you'll consume those stacks and you do forcible repost. So essentially, when you're in her enhanced skill, when you have full concerto, you can do either or. In the standard version, you could do both, but in the crisis elevated version, my understanding is you can only do one or the other, which is kind of interesting because you're consuming all your redundant energy, your concerto stacks. So you're really only going to be able to do the targeted action, or you're going to be able to do the forcible repost, which is important as we'll get to further because they actually have something to do with her burst and her blaze, which is just another mechanic. But essentially, casting either or of these attacks sends Zani into sunburst mode and inflicts a stack of helical ember, another little intricacy that we'll talk about. Essentially, sunburst just uh, increases spectral damage that Zani does by 20%. Now, Resonance Liberation, pretty easy to understand. You deal spectral damage, you enter Infernal mode, which we referenced earlier. You essentially go from 100 energy blaze to 150, and then as soon as you proc your burst, you get 50 blaze. There's other ways to get blaze, which we'll talk about shortly. And then the multiplier for your basic attack is increased. So it's very important to note when you're leveling up her skills, not only are you going to do liberation, but you're also going to do her basic attacks because the liberation is multiplicative on top of the basic attacks. So don't forget to level up your basic attacks, little Timmy. Now, last stand, essentially when you're in her burst, kind of similar to Carlotta, she almost has like this second burst version, if you will, when her um, blaze is lower than 30, or you've been in her infernal mode, her burst mode, for 8 seconds, you're able to do this last stand. It deals a massive amount of spectral damage, but then it just kills the burst mode. So definitely want to be mindful of your blaze, and then also probably just being mindful of your shorekeeper uptime, just so you can proc Zani's outro, and then also do the super intro with shorekeeper. Now, woohoo! Forte circuit gamers, you need a PhD for this one. Sadly, I don't have one, but I will do my best to explain this to you. So, helical ember, essentially TLDR, when Zani's on the team and you have other characters, aka Spectral Rover or Phoebe, that are applying frazzle, they're gonna convert Spectral Frazzle into these other, I guess, resource, if you will, and they're called helical embers. Now, every time that this conversion happens, Zani gets Blaze. Again, Blaze is for her burst. And then these embers are capped at 60, and each stack lasts for 6 seconds. So just keep that in mind. You're going to be able to not only accrue more of these embers, you can up to 60 stacks, and then they also all last for 6 seconds. So just be mindful of that. Now, when you're in her burst, you get access to 4 different slashes. It's very important to note that all of these slashes are considered heavy attack damage, spectral damage, and spectral frazzle damage. Why is that important? When you're getting your echoes and you're looking for substats, you're going to really want heavy damage. You're really going to want crit rate and crit damage, of course, attack, because you'll see attack scaling is very important for her, and then energy recharge. And then I do think basic attack damage would be very beneficial for her as well. So when you're in her burst, you essentially have these 4 different slashes. Now, similarly to her skill above, when you're in her burst, you have access to the enhanced skill. So you go from the standard defense protocol, her basic skill, to now it's called Scorching Light. So you hold the skill, you enter the ready stance. Obviously, she's immune to interruption. If you switch, ends prematurely. And if you release the skill button, you do Daybreak. So again, you can release the button, you do this other heavy attack slash. You can wait to get hit, and you do this light smash. Now, what's interesting is it seems like both of these different attacks have different combos. So if we look at the light smash, which is essentially you're the one getting hit, after you cast light smash, basic attack is replaced with nightfall, which nightfall consumes 40 blaze on hit, with each blaze increasing the damage multiplier of each subsequent nightfall. Now, if heavy slash nightfall stage 1 is interrupted, let's say you get hit, I'm not sure if interrupting it via dodge or parry would interrupt it, kind of like Calcharo. Let's just assume it does. Then if you just press the basic attack again, you essentially go to nightfall stage 2. So basically you don't lose a ton of damage. I mean, you still lose essentially 1 attack as opposed to being able to coordinate both attacks. But it's kind of cool that she has this like oh snap moment where you can still kind of maximize or almost maximize your damage. Now, upon releasing the button, now this is going back to Daybreak. So again, it kind of seems like she has 2 attack strains built into her Forte circuit. So after you release the button, you do Nightfall. You do Nightfall. And then when Blaze is no less than 30, basic attack is replaced with Daybreak. So after Daybreak, which is when you release the skill button, you're then going to do Nightfall. And then after you essentially, kind of the rotation that I see, and it kind of says it here, is after you do your burst, you cast a basic attack immediately. That basic attack is replaced with Scorching Light, which is her enhanced skill, if you will. And then you hold the basic attack, and then you're in the stance. And then that's when you can either release it to do Daybreak, and then you do Daybreak's rotation, or if it looks like you're gonna get hit, then you're gonna do Light Smash. And what's nice is, based on what I've seen and kind of what it details, is if you're gonna get hit, you just take the hit and then it does the attack automatically. You don't really have to do anything else. And then after you do Daybreak, so again, this is after you initiate the hit, you press the basic attack immediately, then you do Dawning. And then at that, obviously all of these cast Blaze. And then after you do Dawning, then you have Nightfall. So very, very, very convoluted. Curl, don't know what you were thinking here, but essentially my understanding is when you're in her burst, you have two different attack patterns, kind of similar to her just her normal skill outside her burst. You have the one where you release the skill button, you do an attack, and that has its own pattern, or you take a hit and that has its own attack pattern. That's my kind of TLDR understanding. Again, character's not out yet. Haven't been able to test her. I'll test her extensively, but that's kind of my 50,000 foot overview. So it's kind of cool. She essentially has like a lot of intricacies within her liberation and within her forte. So I don't know. It just seems like she has a lot of, skill expression. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do quick swap with her because quick swapping will kind of end those states. So she really is a on the field main damage dealer, kind of what we assumed. And then kind of a last note here: if basic attack is not replaced with heavy slash, so on that last attack, if you don't get Nightfall to proc, I'm assuming all of these, attacks have different, indicators. You can just press a normal attack again and then it'll proc, which is nice. So she kind of has like kind of some rescue or oh crap moments to kind of make sure that you're still able to get off your rotation. Now, just kind of about redundant energy and then blaze. She can hold up to 100 energy. You accrue energy by doing normal attacks, intro skill, resonance skill, pinpoint strike. You cannot accrue any energy, redundant energy during Inferno mode because that's when you use Blaze. Blaze is capped at 100, but when when you actually use it, you go up to 150, and then you get Blaze from doing targeted action or forcible repost. Obviously, when you convert those frazzle stacks to embers, you also get Blaze. So, TLDR, she's complicated, but I do think once we, get our hands on her, I do think it's going to become a lot more fluid. Now, what's really simple is her intro skill. Attack the target, deal spectral damage. Sweet. That I can understand. That resonates with me. No pun intended. Her outro skill, I do think is a little interesting. So you attack the target, dealing spectral damage equal to 150% of her attack. Like I said, on those echoes, make sure you're getting attack percent on darn near all of them because it's just going to make her outro hit that much harder. And it removes all stacks of ember afflicted on the target. Each stack increases the damage dealt by 10%. This damage is considered spectral frazzle damage. So again, you're going to want to run the spectral frazzle set on her, obviously. And then spectral damage dealt by other resonators in the team to the target marked by embers is amplified by 20% or 20 seconds. So this is really interesting. So she actually has a decent amount of support, if you will, for Phoebe. So I don't see a way where you would outro off Zani to Phoebe and then you would want to do Phoebe's absolution state to do damage. I still think you're going to want to, outro off Zani, and then you're going to want to do a confession state. What's nice though is now confession state will do more damage because of this damage amplification. So, normally confession is kind of hitting like a limp noodle. Sometimes it does all right, depending on, the weaponing and sequences. But now confession state will do more damage. So I think it's cool. We were thinking that Phoebe was just going to be the spectral frazzle applicator. That's really all she's there for. But she's still going to be able to do fairly decent damage because of Zani's outro. So I like that. I do enjoy that. And then her inherit skills, essentially, just from leveling her up. Casting her intro skill increases spectral damage by 12% over 14 seconds. And then in her ready stance, aka kind of her block stage, her Leonidas stage, if you will, all damage taken is reduced by 40%. So, Zani, looking pretty cool. Again, I think there's a lot of skill expression, a lot of nuances. It's going to take some time to really understand, her optimum rotations. I think obviously Phoebe's going to be her best in slot. You can still run Spectral Rover. I think you could run, a team without Shorekeeper. You could do, Spectral Rover and Phoebe. Then you'd have really good Spectral Frazzle application. I don't think it would be as good. Shorekeeper is so flipping good. We can't quit her. But I'm really excited. I think this character has um, good complexity, and I think it's gonna take some time to really understand her. And I'm really excited, gamers. I don't know about you, but I need this Italian queen to come home ASAP.